going on, everybody? Welcome to the Bread Atlas, the show where we explore breads from all around the world. Today, we are in England. Crumpets, English muffins. What's the difference? We're about to find out. Let's do it. So, crumpet time. Now, as we discussed earlier, crumpet is a batter, but initially, it's a dough. So let's look at it. We've got flour, as per usual. We're making bread. We've got milk, yeast, salt, sugar, a little bit of baking soda, and some water. Pretty standard, except for that baking soda and water situation. We'll deal with that later. Okay, so I have taken the liberty of getting our yeast and milk and sugar all mixed up into a lovely frothy little goo. So we will take our bowl, and to that, we'll go in our flour. Now this is against my better nature. I'm just following the recipe. Normally I would have put the wet in first, but I'm following the recipe. So flour, salt goes into the bowl, and we mix that together. To that, again, these have already been used elsewhere because we did magic today. All right. And now we just mix this into a dough. Once it comes together, we will leave it to sit and do its thing for about 2 hours. It's just gonna chill. Now later, you know, we talked about chemical leavening before. That's what's gonna happen with this baking soda and water situation, because this is a batter after all. And so that's gonna thin this dough out into something that we can actually scoop. It's also gonna create some more air pockets, so we get that lovely, bubbly, crinkly top that we're looking for on a crumpet. All right, I kind of like where this is. It's fine, it smells delicious. Now, what you don't know that I will tell you now is that the quote unquote milk that we're using, I made clotted cream for these crumpets, and off of that clotted cream came some beautifully browned cream. So that's what's in these, not milk, because waste not, want not. Also, it's delicious. All right, let's put a nail in this coffin. We'll see it in 2 hours. What's up, good looking? All right, 2 hours has passed. We've got beautiful dough that has had time to rise, develop. If you could smell what is coming out of this bowl right now, you'd be a really lucky little goober. But you can't, because we don't have that technology yet. We will. Anyways, I got a cup of warm water and some baking soda that's gonna get mixed together. And then that will go in our bowl, and we will whip this into a nice little batter. Now, you can do this with a stand mixer, you can do it with a hand mixer, or you can do it with a spoon. And I just didn't want to bother with getting anything but a spoon out, if I'm being honest with you. Because I know how to use a spoon, and it's much easier to edit a video when there's not a machine going in the background. But, whip it together, see what I mean? Batter. Now, it says to do this for about 3 minutes, so. We're gonna cut? Nope. You're gonna watch me the entire 3 minutes. All right, the batter, as you can see, might be a little bit lumpy, and that's okay. It'll all cook out on the back end. Okay, this is gonna sit for 30 more minutes. After 30 minutes, we'll start griddling these bad boys up and see how they taste. It's actually not so bad. That's interesting. It is very yeasty. Don't do that. Really don't do that. Welcome back, my carb-loving friends. Okay, time has passed. Our batter has had time to sit and rest and do its thing and get all lovely and bubbly. What I'm gonna do is just move it over to a pourable jug, since we're going to need that, you know. Perfect. All right, so main thing we need to focus on before that happens, so we need to get our rings prepped. So, a little bit of oil. A little bit of oil needs to go down on the griddle, just so that they don't stick. And then we just need to grease the insides, and let me tell you something. I hate that I just said grease the insides. I do not like the term grease in a culinary environment. It feels very much mechanic shop to me. But that being said, we are going to put a little bit of oil on the inside of each of these ring molds and go ahead and get them set on the griddle. What that's gonna do is prep them so that it starts to set the outside of these crumpets while they cook. Now, when we put this batter in, unlike when we go to cook the English muffins, we're only gonna cook one side of these. And it's just the way that they're done customarily. I don't necessarily know why. You know what? Maybe now's a good time to do a little bit of history. You think so? History of a crumpet? Ah, crumpets. Crumpets are the cozy rainy day comfort food of Britain, but their history stretches back to medieval times. Now, early versions were more like thin, gritty pancakes cooked on griddles over open fires, but it wasn't until the Victorian era, with the rise of commercial yeast and cast iron rings, that crumpets really developed their signature look. You know, those tall, spongy rounds with a constellation of holes on top. And those holes aren't just aesthetic, no, they are functional. They act like tiny little butter reservoirs, turning each bite into a warm, melty experience. They're the bread equivalent of a warm blanket and a good book. But they also reflect Britain's industrial age, when new technologies and urban bakeries made foods like this widely accessible. And today, crumpets remain a symbol of British domestic life, humble, homey, and endlessly comforting. Molds are ready, nice and warm. We're gonna fill these up halfway and let them do their thing. Beautiful. All right, so we're learning a little bit as we go through this process. We pulled the first batch out of the molds, and their bottoms were getting done pretty quickly, even though we took about 15 minutes on the first side. So this is what they look like now. That was that first side. The other side, we put them back on the griddle. We flipped them, just because they weren't cooking necessarily all the way through. So we upped the heat, thinking maybe that's gonna work. Basically what I'm telling you is that we're flying by the seat of our pants, but boy, do they smell good. So we'll see how they look on the back end. Wish us luck. I gotta tell you, I have no idea what's going on with these. This second batch, however, did turn out better, so I think the key takeaway is definitely let those rings heat up because these actually slipped out. First batch I had to scrape out with this lovely palette knife. And this batch, we're just toasting them on either side. What I still can't seem to do is get a piece of this dough into my face without it turning just back into batter in my mouth. It's very strange. It is very strange. Maybe we've remedied that. Maybe we'll get, once they sit, maybe they'll be perfect and I'll be eating my words. Currently, I'm confused. I feel a little bit dismayed. Either way, we'll see you in the taste test. Okay, so you know how when we did crumpets, we started with a dough that we're then gonna make into a batter? Well, this time, let's flip it and reverse it. I don't know Missy Elliott. Okay, so we've got we've got our standard setup flour, a little bit of cornmeal this time, textural difference, okay? But that's gonna go on the outside later, so don't worry about it now. Butter, a little bit of egg, salt, honey instead of sugar, yeast, and some buttermilk. Pretty similar, but different, okay? All right, so, of course, I took the liberty of saving us all some time. Half a cup of our buttermilk went in here with about 5 grams of honey and our yeast, so it is nice and active, beautiful, delicious, bubbly. Okay, so in our mixing bowl, we are going to add all of this yummy yeasty mixture. Mixture? I meant to say mixture. 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 Honey, the rest of it. That's delicious. You know, bears have it figured out. I've been saying that for years. Bears know what's up. Butter, melted, 3 tablespoons, in. Hi. And then we'll gently whisk this egg, it says. That was pretty gentle. That was pretty gentle. I don't know why it wanted to be gently whisked, but it was. All right, rest of our buttermilk will now go in. Make sure your buttermilk is either warm or room temp. We're trying to get this yeast to get nice and activated right now. And the last thing we want is for that process to slow. And now, we're gonna take only a cup of this flour. I told you we were gonna start with a batter and then make that into a dough. Cup of our flour goes in, and we will mix. Mixy, mixy, mixy. Now, why are we doing this? I wish I knew. I'm trying to figure it out as well. I've read this recipe a bunch, and I'm just following what it says. All right, so now that's mixed together. And now, immediately after, the rest of the flour goes in. Batter into dough. I don't know. All right, so much like our crumpet batter, once this comes together, we are gonna let it chill, do its thing, sit around, and we'll get back to it in about an hour and a half, hour and 3/4. Basically whenever the recipe tells us to, and it's not gonna matter to you, because you'll be back with us just like that. That'd be a cool place to cut.
That would be a cool cut.
Yeah.
That'd be cool if I did that.
Yeah.
Or if I just like kept it rolling.
And then just have this conversation. So you know how I said an hour and a half? Nope, it was 20 minutes was all that we needed to wait. So it's been 20 minutes, and we're gonna start dishing out this lovely dough that's had just a little time to rest onto a few cookie sheets. Okay, so we've got our cornmeal. Just a little cornmeal we're gonna dust so that these can go onto a nice little blanket of cornmeal and sit comfortably. And what this is also gonna do is add that English muffin outer layer, makes them all crusty and wonderful. All right, so I have a number 16 disher, 1/4 cup. If you don't have one of these, and let me tell you, this was just luck. I remembered I had one of these. Standard 1/4 cup measuring cup, spray it with some oil, and dip it, drop it. You know what to do, you're smart. All right. I mean, look at that. Come on. Perhaps not. Okay, so we got 10 and then a weird one. All right. So, you know, roughly that many. All right, now that they're down, what we want to do, I've got oil, I've got hands. I'm gonna spritz a little oil on my hands, pat these guys down, give them a flip, right? I don't know if that's great, good. All right, interesting. That's an interesting way to do it. Boy, is that sticky. Let's regroup. This is a very, very sticky dough. How about we soften it with a little bit of this on top, huh? Right? Make it easier to pick up. That makes sense, Cover, you idiot. Speak nicely to yourself. That's what my therapist has told me. I have to be kind to me. If you don't set boundaries for yourself, you can't expect anyone else to set them for you. Okay, on to the next. Boy, that disher really saved the day. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, so you want to get them in that rough English muffin shape. And let me tell you, not as easy as it seems. You would think, oh, sure, just smush it down a little bit. Why don't you use your hands? Yeah, it's a loose dough. And you know, we're learning. And I'm always down to learn. That's what this show's about. Remember from episode 1, I said we're gonna learn together. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna eat good bread. I don't know if I said all of that, but I should have. That's what's happening. If you have, which if you're making crumpets as well, you will, crumpet rings, they can help sort of shape things into a nice little round look. See, I told you we were gonna learn. There's always a way. There's always a way. You wanna make sure, so says le recipe, to give them a little space so that they have room to rise. We're gonna throw a towel on top of these for about an hour and a half, let them do their thing, then we'll come back to them and cook them up. All right? Get out of here. Go. Stop, go. Go. Quit it. Stop. All right, seriously, go. Now, the English muffin is a perfect example of how a humble bread can ride the wave of industrial innovation straight into breakfast superstardom. Its roots go back to 18th century England, where it was known simply as a muffin. A griddle-cooked bread sold by street vendors who rang bells to announce fresh batches. And these early muffins were the working-class alternative to fancy tea cakes. Cheap, quick to cook, and perfect for toasting over an open fire. But the English muffin's big glow-up happened across the Atlantic. In the late 1800s, Samuel Bath Thomas brought the recipe to New York and refined it into the airy, fork-split version that we know today. And suddenly the English muffin became the backbone of American breakfast culture, from diner griddles to Eggs Benedict. It's a bread that bridges continents, classes, and centuries. Proof that sometimes the simplest foods become the most iconic. All right, English muffins, ready to go. Beautifully puffy. And the grill is hot. You wanna know how I know that? Because it's under my hands, and boy did that get spicy. Okay, so griddle is set to 325 degrees. We kind of been chasing the dragon. It's been up to 400, it's been around 350. We're just gonna roll the dice. Okay, so we're gonna take these one by one, gently pick it up with a spatula, so it says, and lay them down. These are gonna cook for about 7 to 10 minutes on each side. And so we will see them in 7 to 10 minutes. We're a few minutes into the cook, and you can see they're really starting to puff up. You know, they're a rustic-looking English muffin, and boy did we try to shape them. The dough is so damn sticky, though. You know, what are you gonna do about it? All right, let's flip these bad boys. Oh, so pretty, so fluffy. Time is up. These guys are ready to come off, and they look absolutely beautiful. Gorgeous color, nice and crispy, airy and light on the inside. And you can just grab them off if you want to. You don't have to, but they're not incredibly hot. At least these aren't. They look great. Awesome. I'm very excited about these. Quite. All right, we'll let these rest, do their thing. And now, to the taste test. Now, the fact that I thought that these two were in any way the same type of thing makes me feel a mite foolish. However, we got to learn, okay? So, crumpet, much smaller, a little bit more uniform since we put it in a mold, and apparently, you're not supposed to slice it. Quite possibly the most beautiful English muffin I've ever seen in my life, and compared to what you pull out of those horrible cardboard sleeves at the grocery store, way more supple and tender. That's what I'm seeing is tenderness. All right, let's jump into one. And as we talked about, apparently you're not supposed to cut either of these. This one you're just supposed to mercilessly stab with a fork until it comes apart. I mean, they're beautiful. Similar in texture to what you might find in a grocery store, but again, a lot more tender. Definitely not as stale. These guys, leave them intact. Clotted cream, anyone? That was hard to pick that up, and I'm not gonna act like it wasn't, okay? That was a difficult thing for me to do. These hands are a little bit slippery right now, and that's okay. Clotted cream. Now, I made this, and this is my first time ever having clotted cream, and it's just thickened cream. Takes forever. But I do want to try one of these by itself without anything in the way first. Definitely a more tough pull than this. Interesting, kind of a flat flavor. I guess it's one of those things that you kind of build off the flavors that you put on it. It's more of a jumping off point than a destination, I would say. Really moist, though. Moist, tasty, fine. Nothing terribly surprising. The English muffin is perfect. That is flippin' killer. Back to accoutrements. So I've got some clotted cream. It's a bad name. It just means thickened. Okay, clotted cream, a little bit of jam on your crumpet, or however you want to dress it yourself. For English muffins, butter. What are you gonna do? Peanut butter. Make an egg sandwich. Oh, to have done Eggs Benedict. You know what? That may be a special episode one of these days, just making Eggs Benedict. But, anyways, I am so glad that you decided to join us today. Thank you for coming along. I hope you will join us next time. If you like what we're doing here, click that like button, subscribe, click the bell so you know when we post new videos, and drop a comment and let us know where you want us to go next. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.